Hi, I'm Jim Dooley, and I am here to talk about all things A Series of Unfortunate Events. The fans of the show on Reddit have given me 20 questions, and I'm here to answer them to the best of my ability. Let's go. In A Series of Unfortunate Events, as well as another show you composed for, Pushing Daisies, almost every second of every scene has music accompanying it. For some reason, a version of either show with minimal scoring would feel very, very wrong, but it's difficult to express why. Why do you think some pieces of film TV require very little scoring and some near constant? That's a great question. Why is there music everywhere? Sometimes I wish there wasn't. I would certainly get a little bit more sleep than I did during the series. Well, there is a level of magic and whimsy to reinforce that this is not your world. This is not a gritty street cop thing where we're going to tell you that this is what is out there and it's real. This is not real. This is real for our characters, and we want you to buy into this reality that is not your own. That's why there's a level of whimsy in both Pushing Daisies and A Series of Unfortunate Events that underlines this idea. And when we were on the dub stage for A Series of Unfortunate Events, we tried taking some of the music out. And what we found was that the show got unusually dark without this one level of whimsy throughout the series. So we had to keep music everywhere just so we kept the tone right. Question 2. Do you make that sort of decision? Or does a director usually have a good idea of how much music they want and where? No, I don't make that decision. The decision for A Series of Unfortunate Events was made by our director and producer Barry Sonnenfeld. The idea to have music everywhere and the vision of the show is all Barry's, and that is why there is music everywhere and who made that decision. Question 3. How did you first come to meet and work with Barry Sonnenfeld? How did I come to meet Barry Sonnenfeld? It was on Pushing Daisies. Originally, Blake Neely was asked to do that show, but because of so many commitments, he wasn't able to, so he gave me a call and said if I would jump on the series. And that is how I met Barry Sonnenfeld. I owe Blake Neely a great amount of thanks, big hugs and kisses, because he is the one who made all of this possible. Thank you, Blake. Question number 4. What was the composition process for Beatrice's theme like? What feelings did you want to evoke at that moment? Beatrice's theme. I love that theme so much, but I did not write it. That was written by James Newton Howard, and if I'm not mistaken, the humming that you hear is his wife. Question 5. How did you approach integrating the themes and ideas already developed by other composers in Season 1 and the songs written by Nick Urata and Daniel Handler? When I started on A Series of Unfortunate Events, the only theme that I was asked to bring forward from the previous season was the Olaf theme. That is also something I didn't write, but it's quite spectacular. As for the other themes in the songs, those were on a case-by-case basis where, for example, when we're in the Carnivorous Carnival, there's the House of Freaks song, which is amazing, and I got to use that theme and incorporate that into my score as we experience the carnival. Question 6. What do you think was the most challenging piece you had to compose for the show, and why? This is a great question. Easily the most challenging thing I had to write was the first thing that I had to write, which was the Mambo for Gunther. When I first started on the series, there was a dance piece that had to be written in advance of shooting, and it was also the first thing that anyone on the show was going to hear from me. So obviously I was incredibly nervous. I started that morning at 5:30 like I do every day on the series, had my shot of espresso and went right to work. I studied mambo after mambo, tried to get the percussion right, all the melodies right. I wasn't sure exactly what they wanted, and so I just wrote this 2-minute piece, which is on my YouTube channel. You can hear my original demo with the live brass that was recorded for that, and to hear exactly what the vision was. And then after that, the choreographer picked a tempo that they liked for that, and then also the dances were then choreographed to the piece and then integrated into the show. But I was scared, and I think you can hear how much excitement I had writing this first piece because it's so animated and there's so much energy in it. Question 7. Would you mind sharing more about your process of developing custom instruments for the show with us? Yes, custom instruments. One of the greatest things that you can do on any project are to start new sounds from the beginning that you've never used before. And I will tell you why. If you start with a piano, well, people have been working with that instrument for so long that it's hard to do new things with it. However, if you create your own sounds, no one has ever played these instruments before. Everything you do with it is new. And each color is unique to your show. So the first thing that I did was I went to a place called Los Angeles Percussion Rentals. I rented about a dozen instruments that I picked out from their warehouse by playing each one at a time with a mallet until I picked the things that I liked. Then I had them sent to my studio here in Malibu. I recorded each instrument one note at a time, one mallet at a time, and I performed each one of them myself. And then put these together in what would be synthetic instruments, but all from organic sound materials. Also, I got a mariachi guitarron, which is this amazing bass instrument. I performed that as well. The amphibiophone is something that is super cool. It is actual tortoise shells that have been hollowed out and made into musical instruments. It's a wonderful sound and quite unique. The bass flapamba is a giant marimba of sorts and has this incredible bass to it. I really loved using that instrument. The stone marimba is another wonderful instrument. Each note on this instrument is a piece of slate, and because they are unique, each one has a different tone. It's not one piece of wood that's modeled exactly each size. Each one is so slightly different that they all have unique tones to each individual note, and it's wonderful to use. Question 8. In the past, you've talked about the various instruments you used in creating the score, but what, if any, were the synthetic sounds you created for the show on your computer? As for the synthetic sounds, there are no synthetic sounds. Everything that I've used has been recorded from an organic source, and I really think that's a great way to bring something that's much more human into a world where everything is going to be foreign to the world that you know. If I can ground the music into something that is organic, in this case with a series of unfortunate events, I think that was the way to go. Question 9. Were there any compositions of yours which got really far along in the creation process only to end up not being used or changed in the final version? Before starting to picture, I wrote down all of the melodic material that I thought that I would need for a series of unfortunate events. I wrote it all out on one big piece of score paper, which I'm going to put here. Now you can see in here that most of these themes actually did end up in the show. This theme at the bottom of the screen is one of my favorite themes, and it did not end up in the series. Every time I would use it in a cue against a scene, there would be too much hope in this theme. I'll play it for you now. So alas, this theme, as nice as it is, never ended up in the series. Question 10. Did you read any of the books as part of your music writing process? This is a great question because it has to do with what we call the omniscient composer. It's really terrible when the composer knows too much and then subconsciously or consciously can telegraph that to the audience. If I don't know where we're going, I can't anticipate the tension by saying, oh, in this section, I know they're going to be okay, so I can ease up on it. If I don't know where they're going in the rest of the books, I'm not going to telegraph that to the audience. The worst thing a composer can do is be ahead of the audience. It happens all the time. So in this case, I did not read the books because I wanted to know where all the surprises go, just like any audience member would. Question 11. Because author of the books, Daniel Handler, was a musician, did he have any part in the creation of the musical themes apart from the songs he had written? Sadly, no, I have not met nor talked with Dan Handler at any point during the series. I am a big fan of his music, a huge fan of the books, and Dan, if you get to see this, reach out, let's do coffee. Question 12. On a related note, did you try to approach the material completely fresh? Or did you take some inspiration from other musical sources related to the book series, like Daniel Handler's band, the Gothic Archies, or Thomas Newman's score for the 2004 film? When I started, yes, I tried to take a fresh approach to the score, but at the same time keeping with what has been set up by the other composers of the series. Now, I did not listen to Dan's band nor any of the other material unless it was in the show. That's the stuff that I knew. Things that were not in the show, I didn't listen to. I didn't want to go down a road that was going to be not endemic to the world that has been created in Season 1. Question 13. Did you begin your composition process for an episode at the script stage or start work only once it had been filmed? As I said before, one of the first things I did was sit down at the piano and try to work out all the harmonic and melodic material. For example, I knew that there would have to be a theme that represented the missing parents of the Baudelaire orphans. I knew there was going to have to be something that related to Mr. Poe. I knew that there was going to have to be a theme that represented when Lemony Snicket would be on screen narrating. And so I created these themes, and that was the first part before I did anything else. Before seeing Season 2, before experiencing anything else, I wrote down the melodic material as I thought would be best for the series. Question 14. Something that appears to crop up in a few of your scores is what sounds rather like a wind instrument. What's it called, and is it a conscious favorite of yours? I know exactly what you're talking about. That instrument is a contrabass clarinet. It's one of the most unique instruments, and it is so beautiful. It can be punchy, elegant, mysterious, beautiful, and it functions like a bass, and it has a beautiful quality for writing melodies with. And I use it all the time because it is so versatile. It cuts through so well. It's round, it's beautiful. Anyway, I can't say enough things about the contrabass clarinet. Question 15. Did Barry Sonnenfeld ever request that the show's score have some similarities to your work on Pushing Daisies? Or are they simply the result of the two shows occasionally having overlapping visual and thematic motifs? If the scores to Pushing Daisies and A Series of Unfortunate Events have anything in common, I think we know what the common denominator is. Some of that's going to be stylistic, but working with Barry Sonnenfeld in these worlds, there is a similarity that's artistic and structural, and that kind of thumbprint that Barry puts on a show does lead me to write the way that I do. Question 16. Your mention in the podcast, $1 Million Melodies, that musical rhythms can often help create a feeling of how fast or slow time is passing, or the urgency of a situation. Do you think instrumentation choice and judicious placement of the music can also help accomplish this effect? One thing I can say about scoring is that every choice matters. In any given cue, you're going to be making hundreds of thousands of choices, albeit what note to choose, what instrument to choose, what tempo you choose, where the music's going to begin, where it's going to come out, where does it get big, where does it get small. And when you do this hundreds of thousands of times, every note, every choice matters, because what you get to experience at the end is a cue that's an amalgamation of all of these decisions. So rhythm, syncopation, melody, instrumentation, color, everything about it matters. And yes, that is why it's so important. Question 17. Who was your favorite character and/or location to compose for, and why? My favorite character to write for was Esme Squalor. When she's giving the tour of her apartment on Dark Avenue, this was a chance to bring in so much exciting Latin rhythm into her theme as she goes strutting through the hallways, back and forth showing off the apartment that seems to go on forever. I loved playing her theme, and I loved using it later in the series when she becomes quite dangerous. Esme Squalor, my favorite. Lucy Punch, you're the best. Question 18. Not that it's been that long, but with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything you'd do differently if you were approaching scoring A Series of Unfortunate Events today? If I could have asked for any one thing, it would have been more time. Each book in the series is essentially a feature film that's broken into two parts. I would have 3 weeks to do this. Now, beginning each day at 5:30 in the morning and writing for 12 or 14 hours, that's when my brain becomes mush and feels like it's going to come out of my ears. I did that 7 days a week for about 4 months a season. And I wish I just had a little bit more time to spend on every character, every scene, every instrument. That's what I wish for. Question 19. Your tracks are brilliant, and many of us Snicket fans would love a chance to listen to them individually. A petition for the show's score to be released reached 1,735 signatures, and your uploading of tracks onto YouTube has been hugely appreciated. Is there any chance of an album being released, even if only digitally and with only your tracks? The tracks are brilliant? Thank you very much. I'm not going to disagree with you. I think they're pretty good. Any plans for a soundtrack? No. At this point, there are no plans for a soundtrack. I am taking it upon myself to put some of my own music up on my YouTube channel so that fans of the show can experience the music outside of the show itself. Question 20. If not, is there someone in particular we could approach to show our enthusiasm for this to happen? I don't know any single person that you could contact to get this going, but you can always write to Netflix, show your love of the show, show the support from the fans, and maybe one day that'll come out. I hope so. I'm a big fan of all the music from all of the composers on the show. Thank you to all the fans of a series of unfortunate events on Reddit. Thank you for your wonderful questions. I hope you've enjoyed the answers. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more music from a series of unfortunate events.